Remember, the US did not attack Iran alone. So the US and Israel have formed an alliance and attacked Iran together. The only reason why two countries would form an alliance would be because they have a shared interest, a shared strategic interest. And any alliance is usually the convergence of national interests. If two countries want the same thing, then they would be in competition with each other. But for two countries to collaborate, to work together, it's because they might want different things, but those different things can be achieved by the same objective. So they might agree on a particular strategy, a particular goal. So in this case, waging war against Iran, or starting a war, declaring war, attacking Iran, that is the operation. So for these two countries to have planned this operation and to now be executing or carrying out this operation, that would have been carefully mapped out so that both countries, so that the US and Israel, are both able to get what they want through that means. So by starting a war. So the war itself, the outcome of the war, which is to win, basically, that was a given from the beginning, because the US and the Israel are playing an offensive war. They are the ones who launched the attack. They started the war. So they had the advantage in every way. They had the advantage of not being surprised, not being ambushed. They had the advantage of careful planning, of warning their bases, of warning their allies. Iran was not prepared. Iran was not warned that they were about to be attacked. They did not know that they were about to engage in a war with the US. And how could they have known? The country has had no internet for the last month or more. Iran has been in economic decline over the last 10 years, but it has ramped up dramatically in the last year because Iran has been cut off from the rest of the world. Iran has been cut off from global trade as a form of punishment. That was a deliberate tactic. Iran was sanctioned, basically to the point of famine and drought. Iran has been in an economic chokehold for the last 6 to 12 months. So the pressure that has been put on Iran, the pressure that has been dialed up to max, that was also part of this strategy. It was part of the same strategy to attack Iran eventually, or wait until they attack, because it really couldn't go any other way in Iran. By the time the US launched that attack, this was a country that was under so much extreme pressure that the regime had not only cut off the internet for the whole country, it had begun mass killing its citizens, innocent civilians, and relying on the fact that they had no way of communicating with the outside world and no way of receiving help. So it was only a matter of time before there would have had to be intervention. And of course, if you want to talk about regime change and whether or not it was necessary, of course it was necessary, but the question then becomes, why would it not have been a humanitarian intervention? If it was such a human rights catastrophe, if there were such atrocities that were being committed by the government, why would that not have warranted a humanitarian intervention as seen in Libya or in Iraq? So if you look at Gaddafi, look at Saddam Hussein, look how those regimes ended, look how it ended for those regime leaders. So that resulted in death, that resulted in the people of those countries turning against those leaders, and it required intervention from the international community, so either facilitated by the UN or by multiple states, with the mission of bringing peace to those citizens and bringing peace to the people who were being persecuted and who were suffering under corrupt governments, under absolute power, and under the brute force of men who claimed to be leaders of those countries but were very much hated and were very much feared. And Iran is no different. Iran really is no different in that way. When it comes to corrupt leadership, when it comes to brutality, violence, a government that was punishing towards its own people, Iran was that. It was very much that, and that should have warranted a humanitarian intervention. it did not have to end in war, which is that the US and Israel are attacking Iran. So they are bombing the country, they are bombing the whole country. What I like about Trump is that Trump does make a distinction between the country and the regime. He does this because the US has historically always liked Iran, even though obviously they have a very contentious relationship, a politically as well as economically very contentious relationship. Most of it is around security and about, the issue around nuclear arms and so on. But like America likes Iranians, and Iran is not. Trump has never wanted Iran as an enemy and still doesn't. He doesn't. However, he makes this distinction between the regime, the government, the leaders, and the country and the people. Because unlike, let's say, rogue nations or countries like Somalia, so countries that Trump will say that he hates and he's just categorically against those countries, Iran has something that he wants, and that is why Iran became such a difficult mission. Iran basically just presented a problem to both the US and to Israel. Iran is a problematic country for them because they cannot get around the fact that Iran is, number one, an autonomous country. So it sees itself as a sovereign state and it acts like a sovereign state. It doesn't look for alliances with the US or with Israel. It has sought allies in Russia, in China, in the Gulf states. It has sought other means to not only fund itself, but to continue its hold of the oil and the oil supply chain. So the oil supply chain is really what this war is about.